It's something we do every single day, and most of the time we don't even think about it. Reading an article from another country, watching a movie with subtitles, translation is literally all around us. It feels so instant, so seamless. But behind that simplicity, there's a hidden world of incredible complexity, a fascinating process of moving ideas not just between words, but between entire worlds. So let's just start with the most fundamental question of all. What actually makes a translation good? Is it really as simple as just swapping out one word for another? Or is there something much, much deeper going on? Well, if it were just about swapping words, things would get really weird, really fast. I mean, take a classic idiom like it's raining cats and dogs. If you do a literal word for word swap, you get precipitating felines and canines. You've translated the words, sure, but you have completely obliterated the meaning. It's technically correct, but culturally, it's just nonsense. And that right there gets to the heart of the challenge. If a super common phrase about the weather is this tricky, how on earth do we manage to translate our most profound, nuanced, and complex ideas? Everything from groundbreaking scientific research to poetry. So, how do they pull it off? Well, to solve these kinds of problems, translators have way more than just a dictionary. They've got a whole toolkit of specific techniques. People in the field often call these translation transformations. They're the clever analytical methods used to carry meaning across those huge linguistic and cultural divides. And these transformations basically fall into a few key categories. You've got your lexical ones, that's all about word choice. Then there are grammatical ones, where you might change the entire structure of a sentence. And then you get into the really creative stuff, like metaphorical transformations, where you change the imagery itself to get the right feeling across. Let's start with one of the most creative tools in the box, metaphorical translation. This is where a translator takes a pretty straightforward phrase and swaps it for a vivid metaphor in the new language, just to make the meaning really land in a natural way. Okay, so here's a sentence in English. It's perfectly clear, if maybe a little dry. He should never be required to do anything which is beyond his capacity. We all get what it means. Now listen to how this was translated into Ukrainian. Instead of a direct, literal rendering, the translator went with a popular idiom. He can't be required to jump over his own head. It conveys the exact same idea of an impossible task, but it does it with this visual, cultural punch that feels completely natural to a Ukrainian speaker. See? That's not just a translation, it's a creative leap. All right, here's another fascinating technique. And this one, well, it sounds totally counterintuitive at first. It's called antonymic translation. It involves flipping a phrase by using an opposite word, often turning a positive into a negative or a negative into a positive, all to make it sound better. For example, you might get this phrase in an academic text. It is not that difficult to marry the two approaches. The meaning is perfectly clear, but that not difficult construction, it's a little roundabout. Now check out what the Ukrainian translation does. It flips the whole structure, saying it is quite easy to combine. By swapping not difficult for easy, the statement becomes so much more direct, more fluid. Honestly, it's just better writing in the target language. These creative techniques are just a couple of the many tools a translator has in their workshop. They use them to find their way through what one scholar famously called the selva traductologica, the translation jungle. And it really is like a complex ecosystem of words, grammar, and culture. But, you can't just wander into that jungle with a bunch of tools and no map. For translators, that map is made of bigger, evolving theories about what translation even is, what it's for, and how it actually shapes our world. And our thinking on this has changed a lot. Back in the 1960s, the big dream was a science of translation, a perfect rule-based system. But then, by the 70s and 80s, the focus began to shift. Scholars started looking at translations not as math problems to be solved, but as cultural artifacts. Then, in the 90s, things got even more interesting with deconstruction, which started to question the very idea of a stable, sacred original. Suddenly, the translator wasn't just a messenger, they were a creator too. So, the big takeaway from all this history is a huge shift in the guiding question. We moved away from just asking, is this translation linguistically correct, and started asking something way more interesting. How does this translation actually function in its new culture? So, how does all this theory actually play out in the world we live in today? Well, believe me, this stuff isn't just academic, it has massive, real-world implications. Today, translation studies is this sprawling, interdisciplinary field. It is so much more than just books. It touches almost every single part of our globalized lives, from the subtitles on your favorite show to the AI that powers your translation app. I mean, just think about the sheer scope of it. How is a news filtered and translated across borders? How are websites localized to feel natural in different markets? How do interpreters use new tech in real time? Heck, even how dictionaries are made. This is why it matters. The principles of translation are actively shaping how we communicate and get our information on a global scale every single day. And all of this incredibly rapid change, especially with technology, brings us to the biggest question on the horizon. Will powerful AI models make human translators a thing of the past? It's the question being asked in so many fields right now, and translation is right at the epicenter of that conversation. The reality, at least for now, is this fascinating division of labor. Machines are absolutely incredible at what they do. They process mind-boggling volumes of text with lightning speed and perfect consistency. But humans, we still hold the edge in the uniquely human skills: creativity, understanding deep cultural nuance, and maybe most important of all, grasping the original intent behind the words. A machine can translate what was said, but a human understands why it was said. And that brings us to one final, really crucial thought. We've seen that translation isn't just some technical process. It's a powerful cultural act. It shapes how we see the world and how we see each other. So as they move forward, the real question isn't just whether a machine can do the job, it's who or what do we really trust to build those essential bridges between our languages, our cultures, and our shared human experience.